Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this lesson 11 of our How to Create a Professional Responsive Website Using WordPress and Thesis2. Today we are going to dive a little deeper into the Thesis2 skin editor by customizing our home page. And just to refresh your memory, this is the home page we are creating, right? We will be customizing this to add a slider and to add a call to action box, and then we'll be adding some attention boxes, and we'll be styling widgets and that sort of stuff. So we're going to really just sort of take or start up right where we left off last time. Last time we had created some widgets, but we acknowledged, well, in particular the Contact Us widget, but we realized that we were going to need to come back in and style it. And this is pretty much where we are right now, where we have this is our Contact Us widget. And right now the heading is the same color as this background color, so you can't really see it. And then this is too dark to read, so we're going to have to style this stuff. And we have a couple of new features in Agility that did not exist last week, and one in particular is this extended widget styles package. And so we're going to start off with that here right away. If we come back over, go to the dashboard of the site. And then we're going to go to the Thesis skin editor. Allow pop-ups. Try that again. So I have my canvas coming up. Something new that's coming in Thesis 2.04 is this handy little button that brings up the canvas instead of it automatically coming up when you refresh. Okay, so if we come over to the CSS, you'll notice a couple of new, actually, we need to upgrade or update the copy of Thesis that we have here first. So actually, first I'm going to come over to Thesis and Skins, and we're going to update our skin. Because I think this is probably using 1.04, and yesterday I released 1.06, which has the latest and greatest modifications. So if we go to the skin, select skins, and then you can see it says there's an update available, so we'll just go ahead and update skins. And the skin update. Skin was updated with a ravishing success. And now if we come back over here to the skin editor, you're going to see that we have a couple of new packages. I'm only going to talk about one of them today, but if we come over here to the CSS and go to Add Packages, now you see we have this thing called Agility Widget Styles. The second one is the Agility Supplemental Menu Styles, and by all means feel free to play with it, but we've already got our menu styled, so we're not going to be dealing with that here in the class. But we do have our Agility Widget Styles. I'm just going to create a new one of those. And again, to refresh your memory, this is going kind of slow. There we go. To refresh your memory, we have a widget style that works, or we did a widget style that affects all of the widgets across the board, and this time we're going to create a widget style just for the footer. Okay, so we're going to come along here and call that footer widgets. And we'll give it a reference of footer widgets. And we'll leave the CSS selector alone for just a second, but let's copy our reference here. Now this is something that we haven't had to do yet in the course of this class. That is, we haven't actually created any new packages or any new boxes. So in this case, we are creating a brand new package. This package doesn't exist in the system yet. So we'll go ahead and save that. And in order to make sure that the styles that we create inside the package actually show up in the CSS file, we have to add that reference to the skin CSS list. So I'm going to come down here to my widgets typical, and directly below that I'm going to put an ampersand and then the reference. Now that's how you reference it. And once you've done that, when you hit Save CSS, whatever styles we create inside of our package, our footer widgets package, will be actually written to CSS. Okay. So we've given it a name, we've given it a reference, we've given it a CSS selector, which at the moment is just widget, and we've added the reference to the skin CSS list. Now let's take a look at a range of settings that we can do in this Agility Widget Styles plugin, or the Agility Widget Styles package. We have a whole bunch of additional widget styles that are available. Now, if you're a longtime member of BYOB website, you'll be familiar with the BYOB Thesis Widget Styles plugin. This package is very similar to that and has most, if not all, of the style options available to it that were available in the old plugin. So we start that off with widgets, and the Thesis Widgets package has the same category widgets, and it's got font settings, margin, padding, but it doesn't have background and it doesn't have text color. One of the things you'll have noticed if you were trying to style the widgets is that there was no way inside of the widget styles package in order for you to change the color of text. Well, in this case now you can add a background color or a background image to the widget, and you can also add a text color. Something similar happens in widget titles. Again, in the Thesis widget styles, this widget titles function exists, and it's got the font settings and margin and padding, but it doesn't have the background and it doesn't have the text color. This lets you set different background styles for both the widget and the widget title. In addition to that, now I've given you the opportunity to style each of these specific heading styles. So you can use an H3, an H4, an H5, an H6 heading tag in the widget, and then you can specify exactly what styles you want to show up here. We also have something called span text, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but again, you have the same kind of styling possible for span text. Then I also included links in this. Now, the links gives you an opportunity to change its text color and its decoration, and the hovered links give you text color and decoration. The widget list is exactly the same as the Thesis widget lists, and so is topography. But then we also add the opportunity to wrap this in a border, to give it a corner radius so that you've got the rounded corners, and also to give it drop shadow. And we're going to do each of these things here in the course of this class. But now, wrapped all up together, you have this ability to completely customize the way in which widgets look. Okay, so we've got our footer widget, and the first thing we're going to do is style the heading. Now, in order for us to style the heading, we actually need to create, or we need to give a value to one of our variables. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and then come down to the second accent color variable, that is TC5. It had a placeholder color in there. I'm going to change that color to this color. It is a light color, EAE4C7. And the reference is TC5. So we'll go ahead and save that variable. And now I'm going to use that variable again in the footer widgets package here. So we go back over to our options. We go to widget titles. And in the font settings, we will leave the font type alone. And I think we're going to leave everything alone except for the font color. So we'll scroll down here to text color for widget. For the font, the widget title text color, and we'll put in TC5. So that's $TC5. That is that's that variable that we set. And then we're also going to change the text color for the widget. And we're going to use our variable TC6 for that, which we already have set up. So we're going to say $TC6. Okay, now we'll go ahead and say save to this. And I must have done something wrong in the heading. So let's go back and fix that. I mean, our text color turned out right, but we need to get in there and deal with our heading yet. So let's try that again. Let's just make sure EAE 4C7, that's what I want. And then under footer widgets, options, widget titles, TC5. Well, it should be working just fine. So let's just save the CSS and let's take a look at this in the regular page. Well, isn't that special? It's not showing up there unless I'm using the wrong color. Let's just let me double check this real quickly. Oh, I see. Because I used the, yeah, I need to change this ever so slightly. Actually, that's not true. Yes, it is. Because I set the color in that design options, in my design options, it's superseding it. So what I actually have to do is add another class to this. And the class is agility. And as soon as I add the class agility to it, it's going to work fine. And actually, rather than doing that, I'm going to add a different class. And this is something I was going to talk about in any case. And if we come back over here and we open up this, you can see it says selector is .widget. Well, when the selector is .widget, this theoretically applies then to every single widget there is, because all of our widgets start off with .widget. And so what we want to do is make it more specific. Now, when I was preparing for the class, I'd forgotten that we had used the design options to style the widgets headings already. And the way I have those things set up is I automatically make those ones more specific by adding the class .agility to them. And so the design options are taking precedence over this. And we want to overcome that. And we actually want these styles to only apply to the footer. And so we're going to, rather than just saying .widget as our selector, we're going to say, let's style all of the widgets in the footer. So if we come over and take a look at how to do that, what you need to do is choose a more selective or a more specific selector. And if we open up our top footer area and look at our footer widgets, that's where the widgets are. And we could add an ID here, say footer widget, and then we could use that ID to make it more specific. So it was widgets in footer widget. We could take a look at our top footer area page and see it has a class of page wrapper. And we could use that, except unfortunately that doesn't make it more specific, because page wrapper is being used several places, and so page wrapper.widget might apply to places outside of the footer. However, this top footer area has an ID of footer area top. And if we make the selector #footer area top dot widget, that will mean that our style will only apply to those widgets that are in footer area top. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to copy this ID and come back over here to the CSS and open up that footer widget. And in this CSS selector, I'm going to put my mouse in front of it, type a # for the ID, paste what we have in there, give myself a space, so that it now reads #footer area top, which is what the ID is, and dot widgets. So now this style will only apply to those dot widget areas that are inside of the footer area top. Now, when you do this, you have to understand how to use the correct symbol. Right? We have two symbols that we're dealing with here. We have the # or the hashtag, and we have the dot or the period. Now, the dot stands for class, and the hashtag stands for ID. And so if you come over and look at this HTML for a second, you can see we have a choice of, or we could set the ID, and we could set a class here. You wouldn't put, or the way Thesis works is you don't put # in front of this, because that's going to automatically happen because it's an ID. So you wouldn't put the symbol here, but when you go to the selector, you do need to insert the symbol. So if we put a class here, we would be using a dot in the package rather than the hashtag. Now, the reason why there is such a thing as IDs and classes, why there is a distinction between the two, is that classes can be used over and over and over and over again on a page, and IDs should only be used once on a page. So there was a member whose site I was looking at here this week, and she used the ID header several times inside of the page. And that's going to make stuff work incorrectly. The purpose for the ID, or for the hashtag, is for structural elements that only exist only one time on a page. And if it's going to exist any more than once, then it should be a class and not an ID. Now, the reason why that's important here is that because it only exists one time on a page, the ID is more specific than a class. So if we had chosen the class PageWrapper, and we'd said PageWrapper.widget, that could apply to widgets in several different places on our page, because PageWrapper exists several times on our page, and widget can exist several times on our page. And so PageWrapper.widget may exist in several different places. However, the ID footer area top can only exist one place on a page, and so if we say footer area top.widgets, that will be more specific. It will not apply to widgets anyplace else except for the footer area top, which makes it more specific, right? That's the point I'm trying to make here, is that what we're trying to do, and you don't have to do this very often, and most of this has been hidden from you because these styles have already been created, but to the extent that you want to create new styles, you have to figure out what selector to use and what selector to create. And in this case, we are going to use the most specific selector available to us, which is the footer area top.widget. Okay, I have a feeling like I haven't explained that very well, so I'm pretty sure we're going to come back to this in Q&A. But anyway, when we look at our package, the selector that we're choosing is going to come up here in a second, is footer area top.widget. Okay. And now the styles that we have created for this will override the style that the design options set. So we hit save. My site's kind of slow today. And I think we should see that reflected. Now we do. So there's our heading of Contact Us, and then our change in our text. Now the other thing I want to do is change this link color here. So the way we're going to change the link color is, again, the same thing we're doing elsewhere. Whoops. So inside of our footer widgets, we're going to go to our options, go down to links, and the text color I'm going to use for the links is going to be a variable that we created earlier, which is TC4. And text decoration is going to be none. And then my hovered links, my text color will be TC6 again. And my text decoration will be underline. Okay, we hit save to that now. Come take a look at this. This is going to change here in a second. This is not actually considered a widget, so it doesn't have the widget class assigned to it. This is just some text in here. If we come along and put in a widget with text or a widget with a link, we'll actually see that. So if we come back over to footer area 3, and let's see, let's just drag here's an example. A link. Actually, I'm going to make this smaller. Oops. Great. Here is an example of a link. And then we'll just select that. And we'll select link. And we'll just pick one of our pages to link to. Hit save. Come back over and refresh the page. And we should have our link properly styled here. There it is. There's our styled link. Okay. So we have our footer widget styled.